Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. For the last several years, I have been on a soapbox talking about the importance of data. And from time to time here on the channel, I do some deep dives into some data because I believe that it's important. I believe that through data, we can make more informed decisions about where, how, when, and if we want to spend our hard-earned money. But in addition to that, I think that data improves transparency. Through data, you're able to assess how the market is performing, how things are trending, how things look. And I'm specifically in this case talking about sales data. If you wanted to take it even further, I would say print run data, but the likelihood that we'll get that is probably slim to none that we'll see that. But there has been a huge shortage of our ability to get sales data. We don't know how many comics are being sold. We don't know, honestly, how many comic shops there are out there. We don't know the average price for comics right now. We used to get this data through ComicHub. ComicHub used to get the data from Diamond, and ComicHub would publish it for decades and make this information available to us online. We haven't had that for the last several years because of the fragmentation of the distribution model for comics. We don't have any insight. But I recently came across some data, I should probably call it information, that I want to share with you all. It is specifically the best-selling comics for a 5-week period going from January 5th to February 1st. And I'm hesitant to call it data because the sample size for this is relatively small. The information comes from the ComicHub point of sale system. These are sales directly to consumers. So the sample size is pulled from 125 LCSs that are out there out of maybe 3,000 that have sold comics directly to consumers. So a relatively small sample size running for a 5-week period. But I want to rip through not the full 50 of this list, but maybe the top 10. Once I do that, I want to share some other observations that I've had as I've kind of gone through some of this information and scrutinized it just a little bit. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the top 10 best-selling books for the month of January 2025. In the 10th spot, we have Absolute Superman issue number 3 from DC Comics. Number 9, Transformers issue number 16 from Image Comics. Number 8, Amazing Spider-Man issue number 65 from Marvel. Number 7, Uncanny X-Men issue number 8 from Marvel Comics. Number 6, Rogue, the Savage Land issue number 1 also from Marvel Comics. Number 5, another number 1, Magic issue number 1 also from Marvel Comics. Number 4, Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 13 from Marvel. And in the 3rd spot, we have Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 4 from DC Comics. Number 2, Ultimate Wolverine issue number 1. And the number 1 book for the month of January, Absolute Batman issue number 4 from DC Comics. All right, so that is the top 10. There were a couple of surprises there, like the Batman, Absolute Batman was absolutely no surprise. This title has been on a tear, as have been some of the other Absolute titles. One of the big challenges that we have with this information is that we know the ranking 1 through 50, and I just went through the top 10, but we don't know how many actual units were sold in these 125 stores. We have no clue. I've seen some data out there that has said that Absolute Batman number 1, for example, sold over 200,000 copies. And we know that the longer a title goes, generally, the number of sales actually starts to decline. So my guess is that Absolute Batman 4 did not sell 200,000, but how many, how few, we honestly don't know. And that's a huge miss, if you will, with what we're looking at. But with that said, there is some other interesting stuff that I was able to pull out of this information. One of the things that I did was I looked at the top 50 and I broke it down by publisher because I was just interested to see who was leading the way. To no one's surprise, it's Marvel. DC is doing some really good stuff, but Marvel continues to dominate. And when you break down the top 50 books sold by publisher, Marvel has sold 30 of those books, or 60% of the total. DC, 16 titles, or 32%. Image comes in with 3 titles, 6%. And IDW actually has 1 book on the list, and that gives them a market share, if you will, of 2%. Again, small sample size, small number of shops. You can't derive a whole lot from this, but I thought it was interesting. One of the big things here, of course, would be to know how many titles Marvel, DC, etc., are putting out every single month, because that puts the numbers and the percentages in a little bit more context. But again, we don't necessarily have that information to look at that. But I did think that breakdown by publisher was interesting. So the other thing that I will make mention of here is that I looked at the cover prices for all 50 books, because I saw some interesting stuff there where there were a couple of books that actually sold for $5.99. There were 2 in the top 50 that actually sold for that much. There were 17 that sold for $3.99. There was 31 titles in the top 50 that actually sold for $4.99. So of course, we have a little range there of a $3.99 to $5.99 in the top 50. So my next thing was, well, what is the average price, cover price for these books? Did the calculation, and I came back with $4.69 being the average book price for comics in the top 50. And depending upon how you look at the data from Comic-Con, the average price has actually moved up a little bit. And I'll actually show you all some of that data so you can see historically how this data has been tracked by publisher, and then by major publisher, and then all other publishers. So Comic-Con was a great resource for a lot of different reasons. But again, just a couple of the data points that I was able to derive from the information that I found online. If you guys come across any reliable data sets, please reach out to me. Let me know, because I am always curious about some of this stuff. But I found this. I wanted to share it. Hopefully it was helpful. Certainly, if you all have any questions, comments, or thoughts, don't be shy about leaving those down in the comment section. With that said, I'll go ahead and wrap this video up. If you enjoyed it, give the video a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that. And if you're feeling frisky, go ahead and share the video with your friends and help spread the message of the importance of comic book data. If you want to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.
Big city dreams, but that's a small town thing. I thought the big city life was the only way you